Hi, welcome to Messy Imperfect Life with Leigh. If you have not subscribed, do so right now and hit the bell so you get notifications when I drop my next podcast. I'm so happy you're here. I'm really excited today because I'm talking to a woman, and women are constantly doing outstanding things. They're breaking barriers. They're changing and shaping the world. But not a lot of women can say, I was the first woman to dot, 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 right? And the people who do, we really remember them because they set the bar for our future. Our has a lot of vowels and letters. I'm not sure why that went so big, the word our. But anyway, the first two, right? So today my guest is, and I put this right off of the internet because I just loved it. America's premier female live voiceover announcer, Randy Thomas, made history as the first woman to announce the ABC News Nightline. Mm-hmm. And then it goes on to say the Academy Awards, the Emmys, the Kennedy Center Honors, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony, the AFI Awards, to name a few, the Oscars. 10 Oscar shows and 20th Tony announcer, if I got that right. Let's welcome Ms. Randy Thomas. Yay!
Hi, Leigh. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, my friend.
And we have a deep love for each other, don't we?
We do. We do. We've verified it with a sleepover, right?
Yes, that was so much fun.
Was so great having you and Minda here in Malibu. It was an amazing night and a great opportunity to truly connect. And it was during lockdown. So I think that's when communications go deeper.
Yeah, I think you're right because we were really hungry for more connection, right? Mm. And what was super cool about that, Randy, was I don't know if I invited myself over because I'm sure I do stuff like that. But you were like, my husband's going out of town. I was like, can I have a sleepover? But there's something so playful and fun about playdates and sleepovers as adults. Don't you agree?
Yeah, especially girl time. It's I never had a sister. So when I get to be with my sisters, it fills me up. It really does. And I love when you left things here, I then got to wear some of your jewelry because you packed up. Like, this is Leigh's. I'm putting this in my jewelry box, and it's always going to be Leigh's, but I have it right now.
Well, let me ask you, did I get that piece of jewelry back?
No, not yet. You'll have to come back and visit.
Okay, would you invite me, please, or do I have to invite myself?
Whatever makes you feel comfortable. But there's an open invitation for you at all.
I love you.
Thank you.
But there was something, I think, magical. I have something inside of me that's very childlike and is exploratory and curious. And that I had all of those feelings when we were going to have a sleepover at your house because it's been so long since I've had one. You know, kids have them. Kids get to do whatever the hell and just have fun and be creative. And then as adults, like, you're going to have a play date. You're going to have a sleepover. What? But we had a freaking blast.
Yeah, we really did. It's just special. So I'm someone who the work that I do, most of it I do remotely. So I literally am home all the time. My booth is my world. My agreement with ABC and my other clients that I do voiceover for is that I generally don't keep them waiting more than 30 minutes to an hour to get audio back. So I'm homebound.
You're homebound, and your office is beautiful right there. That's your sound booth?
This is my audio booth. It's an audio, I forgot the name of it, and it's a 10 by 12, and I put in all my padded walls, and it's my space. I wish it could be more silent, but I have to deal with trucks and cars, and I just stop for a moment, and
that's because you're in a sexy frickin' house looking at the ocean.
There's a price we pay for having
a truck or two pass by
and the ability to breathe. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a tiny bit about how you got in that house, because I believe you manifested it, right?
It was crazy. My daughter was working for a company on the west side of town. We were living in Sherman Oaks, Valley girl. I've always been a Valley girl. I would always drive to the beach and think this is where I can breathe. And my daughter begged me because her travel time coming home was 90 minutes every day. And at 5 o'clock coming from Santa Monica to the Valley, as everyone who lives in Southern California knows. And so she said, please find a house on the west side. And I said, okay, I'll look. I said, why don't you take a look right now? She opened the app, and this house had just dropped $2,000 a month for leasing. And I'm like, when does this happen? There happened to be fires in our area, so that's why it never rented. But we were just out of fire season. I grabbed it because I thought, I think I can afford to live there. I never thought I could afford to live in Malibu. I'm a working girl. And I could afford it. And it was the universe conspiring with me to put me where I needed to be. Who knew that we were going into lockdown 2.5 months later?
And so many things about that I love. One is that is exactly how I feel. When I moved to California, I moved to Manhattan Beach. I lived on the beach for years. And then my sister moved here and wanted to live in the city to act. And then I got married, moved to the Valley. And the second I creep down, like if I'm going over Canaan or whatever, and I see the ocean, instantly my body calms. Just like, oh, there you are. There's something about it. That's when the work I'm doing this year and what I'm focused on is so I can get back to the beach. It's my favorite place to be.
I see it. And I named a dog Malibu. I've written pieces about how much I am drawn to Malibu, and then I was finally able to make it happen. So yes, it is the ability to manifest what you need, but that came on the heels of being in 2 houses that I leased. The first one, the landlord was a nightmare, and
I think I visited that one, right?
You did, yes. You left glasses there. You always leave something.
I leave stuff. I just want to make sure that the person has to have me back.
Yeah, you're like that, going through the forest, leaving breadcrumbs. Like, oh, I was there. Okay. Anyway, a psycho girl lived in the guest house behind, and I had an entanglement with her coming out of my booth in the garage, and I had to call the police, and I'm like, I have to leave. So I looked for another house, thought we would live in it forever, like for years. And in 6 months, they had a major leak and they said, sorry, we can't renew. We're going to sell the house. So I lived in one house for 6 months, then moved to another house for 6 months. And I have a lot of stuff. Moving is a major thing for anyone. And finally, when I had to move out of that second house, I thought, I was so mad at both of them. I hated them for making me move. And then I could not thank them enough that I had to move because I found this house. So even in my most frustrating and really upsetting time, I look back now and I am so thankful to both of them. Instead of having this like negative energy, I just go, thank you for the messy imperfectness of this,
You know what, Randy, that's what you just hit on is gold. It's literally when God knows where you are to be and you are not open to change, or you're feeling comfortable and safe, which we are not here to feel or be, right? Life happens outside of our comfort zone, and the curiosity and the excitement, not when we sit down, but when we do sit down, God's like, all right, I guess we've got to throw this in. Will that get her moving? And it is literally like, what I've learned, especially with my biggest knockdowns and heartaches, they are my biggest blessings. It's really that the magic comes from the mess.
It truly does. If you're open to seeing it that way.
That's it.
So your podcast is called My Messy Imperfect Life?
And just Messy Imperfect Life. Yeah.
Messy Imperfect Life.
Yeah.
And then my subtitle would be, and thank God for that.
Yes. Amen to that. Yeah. Because, and my thing, with my divorce that I just went through, I was clinging to an idea that was put in me when I was young, and that was with the Catholic Church and everyone else and all the people around us was ingrained, and including for my father and my mother. when you're married forever. This is your guy. You're going to die with him. And I was like, I'm going to die with him. Like, this is my beloved. And I did love him. But when things got so horrific,
Mm-hmm.
I was clinging on, trying, literally like pulling up a lead weight. And the lead weight was just a thought that I was supposed to stay with him. And then I realized, like, God is throwing so much at me. Like, how low does he have to go till I'll finally let go of him?
Mm.
Like, how low does he have to, get so sick he dies?
Were you
What were you gonna say?
staying for you, or were you staying for the kids?
I was staying because I held the belief this was the man, no matter what happens in our marriage, till the day we die.
Yeah.
And every time I hold a belief, sometimes I don't even know that they're there. I think I've released them all, and something's lingering. God gives me something to experience so heavy that I get to see the beauty of the thing that I judged.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. I know exactly, because I think for some of us who are moving forward in life, embracing all that we can about this time, so to elevate our own personal frequency and open up the gateway to all the things that we intend and are manifesting. Like, it's
And what God intends. Like, God made us powerful beyond measure. We're directly linked to him and all that is, or her, or it, right? The energy of.
right.
And
That's a belief.
and then our crazy mind tells us that we're separate. And then we start living in fear, and then the world is the way that it is. But it's literally like sometimes I have to flick my head and touch my heart to remind me, you're in the crazyville. This is pure love. This is all the answers. This is all you need. Get the heck out.
Yeah.
I actually just came out of about 4 weeks or 6 weeks of spinning, totally off center. And I was literally a crazy person. And then I went out and got wasted drunk. And I was like, what is happening to me? And I go, oh, I've forgotten who I am.
I was going to say, is the bigness of your life sometimes too much? And I mean, I know that you're a light worker. You're someone that is here to help other people see who they are. Does that still become too much for you? I mean,
Is
it okay to sometimes get a little drunky just because, all right, enough.
I got really drunky. And then my friends sent me photos, and I was like, oh. And I have to tell you, I had such compassion for that part of my humanness that was overwhelmed, that was worried, that was all of the low level energy things that spin in our mind that torture us.
Mm-hmm.
That got the best of me. I got off my rocker. And then everything was unraveling because I wasn't centered in my knowing and my power.
Maybe it was unraveling just because it's supposed to.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
So what it did was strip me out of, I had all these big ideas and things I was working on, all this, and then I started worrying about. And then I was like this, holy Toledo, I just got wasted drunk. I'm running myself ragged. What's happening? So I had like an 1.5-hour therapy session with my therapist, who's a great spiritual teacher as well. And she was like, I said, and this happened, I'm so tired. She's like, I understand why you're tired. And I said, I know that I just need to get centered and meditate and get back to my spiritual practice, but I want to cry about it and talk about it more. She goes, then let's cry and talk about it. It's just like, I have all the answers I need, but I also need to fully express my humanness.
For a moment, I pictured you with like so many plates spinning in that moment. Like, everything's spinning, but there's too many.
I can't hold them all.
So much is happening, and time seems to be moving faster now. Like,
I'm having a new relationship with time. My new thought, my new belief, my new mindset is I have all the time in the world. What do I choose to do with it?
Yeah.
And then I write down what's important to me. Then I write down the shit I don't like so much.
Right.
And then I make time for the things that are important for me. And then I make 1 hour to deal with the shit a day.
Good.
Right? And all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm going to start having my day. I'm not going to get caught up. Anytime I'm moving from my head or fear or chaos or anything, that's what my world becomes.
Yeah.
Second I get quiet, I'm like, we're here for a blip of time. We're here for a minute, right? Let's enjoy this. Let's have a freaking blast. Why are we so serious all the time? It's just like, yeah.
I started committing to waking up and doing 6:45 a.m. yoga Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's Zoom with my friend Nancy, who is an amazing yoga coach. But I love it because I'm such an early riser anyway, that to know I love to get up. I shoot the sunrise with my little, I'm with my dogs and it's my quiet time. And so 6:30 to 7:15 is like perfect for just stretching and breathing 3 days a week, committing to being more active and taking care of me, because we find ourselves taking care of everyone else but us. And by making that commitment, I'm starting my day in the way that I like to the most, breathing.
I'm sorry. I just got excited about something that I saw you transform like a caterpillar to a beautiful butterfly in our writing class, where you started out kind of rough and tough and, like that. And you blossomed into the most tender, beautiful, and your writing became poetic and deep. Tell me about that, because I watched that in real time. I was like, what just happened to Randy? What was the thing? Did you feel it was an opening one day? Like you transformed in those weeks?
Well, I think we should frame this as we have been friends for several years, a number of years now, because of our friend Minda Burr and the writing class that I took, that you were in, then you were busy, then you came back, and it's been an amazing connection.
I'm coming back, by the way.
Good, with amazing women. I love that. So,
Wednesday, okay.
The fact, I don't think of myself as a writer. I have all these things in my head, projects that I want to achieve, but I'm a high school dropout. I'm a junior college dropout. So my confidence...
Old stories.
I know, exactly. My confidence in my writing ability, like someone said to me, well, just send it to me and I'll read it. And I'm horrified at the thought of someone actually reading what I write. Yeah. I can read it and clean it up as I'm going, because that's what I do. I'm read it off the page. And if I'm already looking ahead as I'm reading out loud and I'm thinking, no, I'm going to, how we edit on the fly as we're reading our pieces, I'm much more comfortable to read them out loud. But then through the support I got in the writing group, I realized that I was leaving out a lot of the details. I wasn't able to find out.
Yeah, you were touching topics.
I was touching topics. I could tell you where I was, but I've learned through this class is, first of all, the descriptives. You have to describe things in a really new, fresh way that excites people as they're picturing what.
Like, give me an example of that. What would excite?
Does
it have penis or vagina in it?
If you wanted it to, it could, but it would be more like just describing someone and doing it in a way that is not
Yes. Like, instead of just saying she was pretty with blue eyes and blonde hair, it's like her golden hair seemed to have a fan always in front of it blowing in the wind. Something her smile was electric with, kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So there were things that I wasn't writing, and the dialogue. And I was so supported in that class that it gave me the freedom to open up a little, because I'm that kind of person. I'm friendly to everyone. I'm outgoing, but I'm not able to really deeply connect with many people.
So number one, I want to say something. You're in New York, right?
I was born in New York, grew up in South Florida and Detroit.
Because there was an edge about you. This kind of toughness, don't fuck with me kind of like thing with you. And what I know about that, because I had that too, was that it comes from having to be tough in your childhood, right?
Yes.
We have to be tough in our childhood, so we create this Supergirl persona Like, I don't need anyone. I'll fucking beat you up if you mess with me. I mean, just this, like, that was how I lived my childhood.
I was
And
that.
that was, right? You too.
Yeah.
And that was our protector.
Yeah.
And then what was interesting is becoming an adult and going, holy hell, that doesn't fit being an adult. Now I just look like a weird, really mean bossy lady.
Well, I think having children softens you. And that's what happened for me. Even though my child was an adult, she was in college when I started the writing class, and I was still writing from my old self. But there is a softness that came about, raising my daughter. And
Now I was gonna interrupt you again because you. So yeah, kids teach us a shitload. Like my kids are a pressure cooker of the work that I need to do on myself.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So they show me where I can still heal and
Yeah.
how I can show up more whole and in kindness and not triggered.
Right.
So, but I want to say that when we soften, it's a choice that we make. No one can soften us. And what I saw in you during the class is I watched you soften. You didn't come in like that, at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You came in just telling facts and that's that. And then the minute you started a little bit exploring what actually happened and the feelings you had and that tenderness came out, I think that's where we connect. Everyone connects when we can be vulnerable. And I saw a vulnerability to you that just was like, wow, it was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think for anyone who's exploring, writing about their life, these moments that are so pivotal for us, to do it in a safe space where you are supported.
Always.
Our group happens to be all women.
Yes.
And even though we tried to insert a couple of men, they sort of dropped off and it became the women again. And I resonate to that because in real life, I compete against mostly men.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I used to think women were my competition, but meeting women like you, like Minda, like Catherine, and finding out, no, women are your support system. I used to feel very alone out there.
Me too.
And I never had a support system like I was able to find in the writing group, because not only are we writing together, but we really like each other and we're growing together. And
we're all so different. Our stories are so different. Our backgrounds are so different. But the common link is we all want to feel like we matter. We all want to feel love. We all want to be heard.
Yeah.
And I think that's the common thread is people just want to be seen and heard.
Yes.
And I think in that space, it's a very safe space for us to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I have to tell you, there's nothing more powerful than getting a group of women who are forward thinkers, who have wide open minds and hearts, and who propel each other forward. That's magic sauce.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing like it.
I mean, if I could wish anyone listening right now the most special space to find yourself in, that is with women who get you and support you. And it doesn't just have to, hopefully it's your partner that gets you and supports you. But for example, I'm married 37 years. We've been through it all, all phases.
Like what?
Well,
like what?
Like being best friends, falling in love, starting our life, having the same kinds of dreams. We both came from working class families. No one could ever give us anything. So whatever we were going to create, we were going to do it together. I had dated very wealthy men, and that just wasn't for me. I thought that, wow, I could have this life. But to me, when my husband and I, when even we were best friends, we would talk about our dreams and our wishes and our hopes. And that fueled us enough to where when we got married, it was us against.
But what was interesting too, in your marriage, right, that you kind of took off, right? So there were these dreams, and then you became like the one who was manifesting the dreams, right, and the supporter, and kind of working in a male world and a little bit male at home, meaning you were bringing home the bacon as well.
Yeah, and what happened for me is marrying the guy that I did. Once we had our daughter, he decided to because he was in the music and record promotion industry. And it was very heavy into rap, and it wasn't his vibe anymore. So it was the perfect time for him to step back and raise our daughter. When I say raise, I was an at-home mom, with a studio. And he would take her in the morning, pick her up in the afternoon, get the download of how mean the girls were to her,
Right.
whatever the kids did. And he basically raised her, from day to night, until she was able to drive. And then,
So let me ask that. Were you going, this is freaking awesome? Or were you ever going like, are you going to get a job? Like we can
I
carpool.
didn't think to ask him that when things were going great, because everything was great. It was only when certain accounts of mine that I had that were the bread and butter of supporting our family went away. And so then everything that we had saved and, put aside, we had to start living off of it.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2013.
So like,
And I moved to California in 2016. So there were 3 years of literal hell.
what the
Coming back
hell
to
are we
LA.
doing?
And then, for me, leaving Florida, because our daughter was at USC. So now my
Right.
daughter's in a private university. We're going to follow her back out to California because our dog.
USC, who paid for that? That's an expensive MF
She
school.
was able to get, some scholarships and loans, and we paid.
So she's smart.
We could. She's a smart cookie. Yeah, she definitely.
She's cute too.
She,
I saw her.
she's a really amazing kid. She is here to teach me without a doubt. Not to be my mother, because
No.
but to teach me. And
Mm.
because it's the difference of a child being brought up in a home with love, with support, with rules, with
Yeah. You know what's so funny about rules? Kids
I
think
had
rules. Ugh, I had none either.
and it was
I made out for the first time in 4th grade with Jim Crusoe, and he touched my boobs in the creek in the backyard, and then we smoked a Marlboro Red. So it's kind of like
was it
nothing mattered. And I would always come in and be like, "Mom, I shoplifted today." She's like, "Get out, please," because she was like in her own hell, right? She just was not available. So I felt like what do I have to do, right, to get attention? And that still like has never stopped, right? That was ingrained when I was young, and now I can't stop like doing splits and high kicking and
right.
just floating around like, what am I supposed to party now? I remember my sister Amy once saying, I don't understand you. She was my older sister. I make straight A's. I do what the hell I'm supposed to do. Da da da. And then you come home and say, "Guess what, Dad? I made out last night with some football player from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's kind of hot." And then everyone would belly laugh like you were the. And I was like, she got drunk and made out with someone. Like, why are you praising her? Why is
Where
everything
were
she
you?
did
Or in the
middle?
the middle child.
Uh-huh. But yeah, it's just yeah. I don't even remember what I said because you said something about your daughter.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, she's here to teach me, basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
she's so much smart. But again, that's what I was saying. So here's a child that was raised with rules. I took her out of LA because I thought there's a lot of distractions in this town. And a lot of my friends who had children way before me, I saw their kids growing up with this sense of entitlement that I didn't want to see in my daughter. So we moved to Fort Myers, Florida, little town. And her biggest accomplishment in life was that her teachers applauded her and supported her and getting her homework done. And like, she got so many strokes from doing the right thing in school. I was the girl that was smoking cigarettes from 9th grade, 8th grade, behind the school. If there was a chance to just not go to school and get in the car and go to IHOP for breakfast,
Yes.
if anyone else was down, I would do that. So school was not something that I felt that I needed. And for her, it was so important. And then
It's so funny because she felt that way too, because whatever you're told from teachers and that feedback that's positive, it grows you.
mhm,
My sister Amy, my mom was kind of absent. Amy had to mother us all and she was angry and all that. But she was a good dancer and she danced, and the PE teacher was like, "Oh my gosh, you're an amazing dancer. You need to try out for the dance team." That one compliment, because she was so starving for affirmation, she ended up being a Kansas City Chiefs cheerleader or whatever, and then she majored in dance. And I was just like, that one seed of positivity touched her so deeply that opened that path for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't even realize how hungry kids are, right? For that little bit of, not like you're the best kid, you're the greatest,
Right.
but really seeing something in someone and telling them, and then that brings awareness. I just think it's magic.
I think that I think through our generation of raising kids, good job became thing where everything is good job, way to go, good job. And I didn't grow up with that.
Neither of us.
And I think I did that to her, though. I think she got a lot of good jobs, but I think she got off on that, and she always did something that would make people say, good job, well done. So.
Yeah, and also I think we get what we're not sometimes, right? We get to see what it's like to be, like my girls are really demure and kind of quiet and that way. And I'm like, it's just interesting to me to watch. Like,
how old are you?
Hey, you guys, don't you see what I'm doing? They're always like, Mom, can you just please wait in line? Can you just... Like, but why? I want to go talk to everyone. It's just interesting. I think you are born who you are.
Yeah.
And we either as parents can see that and nurture it, or we can say, be quiet, do this, do that, try that. You know what I mean? It's like we're missing who the person is. I know I did that a lot.
Yeah.
Just trying to do what everyone else was doing. Even though my kid was saying, please, I hate this. It's like, no, you're going to play sports. Dragging him across the field. It's interesting parenting.
It's such a gift. I mean, you have all the parenting to do. I mean, you have how many kids? 4 or 5?
I have 5 kids.
That's what I thought. I can't count. I mean, I haven't met them all, so it's hard for me.
Yeah, it is hard.
I feel badly that I had.
No, don't. I have no idea about other people's kids unless I've spoken to them, and then I can't remember their name. I hear you.
Yeah. But that's a lot. Like, you asked for this.
I signed up for this.
You signed up for it.
And holy hell, I had no idea what that meant. I'll have to say, with kids with some struggles, some of them, that my heart has never been ripped open wider now with a capacity to love and a capacity of compassion and understanding. And that people really have no idea when someone struggles, a kid that struggles, what hell they're in and at home.
Yeah.
They might, and then they're whispering about them at school, or they're not inviting you to play dates. You're like, I'm in enough hell. Stop it. But it really, everything is for our learning.
Yeah.
And that's why I was in a pressure cooker of learning, and gosh dang it, I learned so much. Yeah. That everything's okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay. And that we don't have to change anyone, and we don't have to try to make somebody something, and we don't have to, all we have to do is see who they are, hear them, and see them. And that's when they can leave your house knowing they mattered. Not that I did that. It's just what I've learned.
I'm sure you've given that to your children. I'm
not sure. They call me half a mom. No, they call me you're kind of a mom. You're kind of a mom. I was like, what does that mean? They go, well, you don't cook. You don't cook. You don't know how to sew anything. And when we fall or get hurt or something, you just sit there and look at us. And I said, that would be kind of a mom. I get it. They're like, well, why didn't you run over? I said, because it's your experience. I was just looking to see if you needed me. But I didn't want to overreact or cause, I would just let you have your experience. And then if you were bleeding, I'd get you a thing. But I wasn't going to add to what your experience was. I was just there. And they were like, something is wrong with you.
I think
Mother, that's not normal.
Kind of power, because I'm the mom I was in. I'm like, what did she do to you?
Oh, I would do that. I wanted to do Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
Was
Rebecca
that?
de Mornay or something, and she would go beat people up on the playground for her
Yes,
nanny.
absolutely.
I felt like that a lot. I want to go to the frickin' playground. I want to twist that
So
kid's
funny.
arm. Yeah, but I didn't, luckily.
That's so funny. Rebecca De Mornay.
It's hard when people are mean to your kids,
Yes, being mean sucks. It's awful.
right?
Yeah,
And I think, boys and girls go through it,
yeah.
you know?
And
The
I'm
mean,
glad that my daughter had mean people because I think it, and also living through our struggles has made her a more compassionate person.
mm,
And I think compassion,
mm.
like empathy, sometimes just has to be taught. It's not innate in everyone. Um,
I think it comes from experiencing deep hurt,
yeah,
but then healing from it
yeah,
and learning from it. Because otherwise, if you see something that you were deeply hurt by and you're still hurt, then you're pissed or you're kind of like that about it. You can't say, oh, I know exactly how you feel. Exactly. Like when I was in my divorce, I kept talking about my divorce, just talking about myself and how it was hurting. And I feel like, what's going on? I was just talking about it in real time, sharing about it. And I got asked to be the divorce coach in Beverly Hills with this group. So I started doing divorce coaching. But when the women would talk to me, I just knew, right? Because I was still I'm still in it. So I was able to give perspectives on how I got out, but it wasn't just like, oh, sorry, you're having a hard time. So anyway, try step 1, 2, and 3. It was like, I get it.
yeah.
And I think that kind of when people welcome you with, I get it, then you can hold hands and walk forward
Right.
together.
Well, again, it's like you said earlier, people just want to be seen and heard. I think that's the most common theme on the planet for,
Mm.
you know, um, for all of us.
They, they say that listening is the biggest gift you can give yourself and another person.
I was always more the talker than the listener, and I'm
Me
learning to
too.
listen more now.
Me too. Even on my podcast, I'm like focusing and listening instead of interrupting when I get excited. When my mind wants to say something, I just like, quiet mind.
Mm,
I'm listening. Um, and you know what I love about listening is if you're really listening, you don't have to be nervous or think of anything. Like if you're having a conversation with somebody, you're like, I'm nervous about the person. I don't know what to say. Well,
mhm.
because you're not listening.
It's so funny because when we first started watching reality television, these were actors or real people that, but mostly the faux actors that are in a reality situation. They kind of know what they want to say and
Mm-hmm.
they're not really listening. And so
Mm-hmm.
it seems very insincere or weird. And I think the key is for people who actually listen. Then those reality shows would play out beautifully when you do find there's someone that listens.
Why did you segue to reality shows?
I don't know because I found that when you don't listen and you already know how what you want to say,
But that's most people in life.
true.
Like you go into a conversation
Yeah.
and they're like, I disagree with that. I think this and that. I'm like, wait, you were just waiting for me to stop so you could say that. Like you didn't even hear what I said. I
Yeah.
mean, I've done that a lot.
Yeah. I
But what I love, what I've learned is if I just listen, naturally the response, my authentic response come
yeah,
out because I'm
I
just
get it.
responding,
I get it.
right?
Yes.
I mean, for me, it's been a life changer because then it stops, my mind is like crazy. And then it just quiets my mind so I can really have an authentic conversation.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? I'm just-
Ah, nice. I love that. I love that. Okay, I want to touch really quick on because before we came on camera, we were talking a tiny bit about something messy from your life.
yeah.
And you said, a lot of the things I wanted to talk about have to do with my mother. And she watches and listens what basically, right? And I thought it was so interesting. And then I asked you, like, if you did share something, what would you be worried about? That she'd be mad at you? And you were like, no, you said something else.
I would just feel badly if I guess I don't want to anticipate how something would be taken in from her, but my mom is 99.
Oh,
We had, she did the best she could in her life.
yeah,
And part of her finding herself, she had to leave us. And I was the older child. I had an older brother, but he was already out of the house. So I
right.
became the caretaker for my two younger brothers. And
What
um,
age was that?
she left when I was 9, came back when I was almost 15. So really important
Yeah, yeah.
years for a young woman. Um, and living with grandparents because my dad couldn't take us, so had to live with grandparents. And
Hmm.
I think I learned shame very early in life. I was different, and when I grew up uh, on Miami Beach as a young kid, divorced or separated families weren't the norm,
Right.
most, unless the mother had died or the father had died. But divorce wasn't talked about. And so I was that scruffy kid that wanted to be friends with the nice girls, the good girls, but their parents would, take a look at me. And I was, as you described in our early writing classes, that girl that was really rough around the edges, kind of tough, um, not able to even share anything about my life, because I
Hmm.
was so ashamed that it didn't look like anyone else's life.
Yeah, I get
What
that.
to do with it. So, but I always tell my mom when she came back and she wound up meeting Max Thomas, which is why my last name is Thomas, she married him. And we had a beautiful, um, really good life in Michigan with my stepfather. My brothers we had structure. Like Max was the
Right. It
first
felt
guy
like
in
what
my
you
life
longed for.
I
Yeah.
longed for it. He was like, "You can't do this. You better be home by," and I'm like, who the fuck are you? No one tells me what to do.
That's right.
That was that tough kid, and honestly, that's what I was craving. So I loved, hated him, and of course, he became one of the most important people in my life. And I always
Oh.
tell my mom, and he died many years ago, but I always tell my mom that the fact that she came back and made us her priority was everything.
Hmm.
So,
And
um,
and and just touching on that little spot, those really formative years between 9 and 13, when we're little, of course your mother, right? As a grown up, as a healed person, of course we know she was doing the best she could with what she was equipped with, right?
yeah,
But our little girl brains, all we know is she left me.
yeah.
I don't matter.
If I was good enough, if I was better, maybe she could have
Yeah.
stayed.
Because we look to our mothers as the primary, who am I? Am I okay? Do I matter? When they leave, it's like, oh, game's off. What kind of destruction can I do now because I don't matter?
Yeah,
Right?
most of it's self,
What do you mean?
most of it's self destruction.
Always.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it comes outside of us in different ways, but it's always about I don't matter and I'm going to live my life like I don't matter. Who cares?
right.
I'm
But,
nothing.
and my mom actually called me the other day. She had a memory. She said, I remember that your life changed when Max, my stepfather, flew me into Detroit from New York. I was having a wild and crazy young life, 17, 18 in New York.
Wow.
He flew me home for Mother's Day. And it was around that time that he taught me how to play racquetball. And there was a guy he played with he owned Crazy Jacks, the auto. Remember when we would, in the 70s, when we would put, uh, we would have 8 tracks in our car,
Yeah.
whatever. So he was the guy that put your sound system in. And I guess he took me to this dinner that my parents were going to be at. And after dinner, he had to go to a radio station to cut a radio spot for his business. So I got to go with him. And as random as that was, walking into that radio station, I knew that's where I was going to be for the rest of my life. And
Wow.
I figured out how to get on the air. And then I started as one of the first women in radio in Detroit. And I did that for 20 years
Wow.
until I became the first woman in history when I was a DJ on the air in LA to announce the Oscars. So,
Wow.
you know, I wouldn't have changed anything that happened in my life. Being abandoned, being left, having too much responsibility, having my grandparents die, and lots of trauma accompanying that. And then my father and his alcoholism, and until my mom returned. When she finally did, everything changed. Went to Detroit, where I met some of the greatest people ever that I went to junior high, high school, and started in radio with. In fact, bringing that thought full circle, I am actually on a Zoom every couple of Saturdays with program directors, general managers, DJs, all from Detroit. And we're creating a series about FM underground radio
How
from
cool.
1968 to 1982. And that all comes out of coming out of Detroit radio. So it's interesting.
Everything that we label good or bad, everything is a part of our tapestry. Everything was necessary to either open and rise or to cover yourself with.
Yeah.
Right? And it feels so damn good and empowering to know, oh, this is happening for me, not to me. What can I do with this? How can I learn from this? How can I make this good? Or am I going to cry and be a freaking victim for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
That we have choices, right? And I think both you and I are kind of like, I don't want to say broads, but we're like, bring it on, let's go. And just walking in, right? Even when we feel like we want to retreat or crumble.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that.
So, yeah. So I'm that girl that sees every blessing in my life and everything that knocked me off my center as a blessing, because apparently I'm that kind of person. It's not easy to knock me off my center. And the universe figured out, well, the only time we get her attention is when we knock her off her center.
To the ground, yes. That's me too.
Yeah. So, and what's so interesting for me, 37 years of marriage, my husband had taken a back seat in the providing side, but he has always been a creative man, a man with a lot of dreams of his own that he could not manifest if we had stayed in Florida. By coming back to California and being around his people, has inspired him and taken him to another level, that he's about to open a business in Northern California that will be the biggest thing either one of us have ever done.
Aww.
And he gets to do that in his 70s and be everything he can. I came back to LA in my early 60s with everything having disappeared.
How old are you?
Work-wise. Do we say this on the air?
Because when you said 60s, I forgot. Are you 60 or in your 60s?
I'm in my 60s. So
I'm 55 and I think everyone's the same age.
No, I left. See, the reason I don't say my age is that we live in such a ageist time.
I know, but your voice is timeless.
Well, that's what I think is the most important thing. I take care of my body. I take care of my health and my voice. Although it's changed, it's grown over the years. But that was how. So if you want to pivot right into that moment, that when I came back, I needed the work. I wasn't sure how I would get the work. But again, talking about manifesting, I was the voice of Entertainment Tonight and a major news affiliate in New York. And they both went away and impacted me tremendously. So I came to LA and I'm like, there's so many women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s that have amazing voices that can do commercials and all the promos. And I thought, well, where do I see myself? I know I'm great at live announce. I think that's probably the best thing I do.
Where'd you see yourself?
News. So I went to a studio, my buddy Mark Grau, and I said, I need to create a news demo. I did it with another friend of mine, Dave Walsh. He's the true tell. He's a voiceover coach that teaches you the true tell, because if you are not reading something that you believe, you have to find a way to believe it, because otherwise you're never going to get the booking, because we know it's an
Not
independent
authentic.
read.
Yeah.
So anyway, I said to him, I really think there are no women doing the opening of the evening news. ABC, NBC, CBS,
So you
all men.
saw that niche was not met by women.
Correct. So
So
I
that's
went to
where
the
you change.
studio and I asked my agent, if I create the open to ABC, NBC, CBS evening news in my voice, produced to make it look like the real deal, will you send it to the networks? And my agent said, sure. The day I created it, I called my agent, sent it to him. I said, here it is. That night, I got a Facebook message, no lie. Stephen Baker was the executive producer of Nightline, and he wrote me and said, Randy, I worked with you at Entertainment Tonight. I'm the, exec producer of Nightline, and I've always wanted to work with you. And so I gave
love
a
it.
news demo showing what I sound like doing a news type intro. I was hired, and I'm going into my 5th year as the female voice of ABC News, Nightline.
My favorite news.
GMA's third hour. Because I feel that even though my voice is in great shape, I feel the heaviness, the weightedness to my voice is appropriate for news. That's where it really belongs. And
Okay, so I want to stop for 1 second because I had an aha moment. Yeah, Randy, way to go, girl. I don't have those that often. So what I got was, women, if you ever see a niche that is not being met, meet it.
Meet it. Create a demo for it. Create something that shows you in it.
So there's Susan Feldman, who I had on recently, who created One Kings Lane or One Kings Road. I always get confused.
Oh,
so
I get their emails.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huge. Okay, so she was living in New York in an apartment.
Can I get a discount? I'm just kidding.
Her husband, she sold it for a lot of money to Bed Bath & Beyond. But anyway,
that's what it is. Okay.
she moved to LA, had a big house, went online from New York, so she had nothing really to fill this new big house. Her husband got moved for work. She went online to buy stuff. She couldn't find one site where she could get everything, so she created one. Indoor, outdoor, everything. It grew so fast. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she ended up selling it for just under, I think, $1 billion to
Amazon.
Bed Bath & Beyond.
Oh, Bed Bath.
Okay. So what excited me was she just saw a niche that she needed.
Exactly.
Created it. And you did that with the news, or you're like, where is it missing?
That to figure out where I was going to take my voice next in the world of voiceover. And thank God it's been working for me. I do all the major political events for ABC News.
Huge.
I was the first woman in history to do the Democratic National Convention. I've done it twice.
Wow.
I feel just so blessed that I can be at my age, 60 question mark next to it, and have found where I want to be for as long as they're going to have me.
And you created it.
Yes.
You saw what was missing. You set your goal. You took steps. You did the work. Mm-hmm. And then when they were looking, you were there. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I just got that. It was like you did everything to prepare for them to see you.
You know, I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers, or just Outliers. I highly recommend it to anyone. I'm an outlier. You're an outlier. We are the people to whom maybe not much was expected, who have, are able to do extraordinary things. And it's all about all the people that have done amazing things with their life, that for whatever reason, they were able to accomplish things that not everyone can. And we're outliers.
I love it.
So when, the universe or God, whatever, directs you, if you're like, okay, let me figure out how in this direction I'm going to go. You can't
100%
fight it,
And when a door closes, that's such a gift from God going, pick another door.
Right.
But we're like, why did it close? How am I going to get it open? I'm going to try and bust it. I'm going to get a key. I'm going to get a locksmith. Right. And we spend so much time beating ourselves over that the door closed, as opposed to going, thanks God, that was a shortcut. I'm going to go over there,
Yeah.
you know? And I also like that the universe, that universal energy, the flow of love works with us and for us.
Yeah.
It's only for our highest good. And so when we start to see the roadblocks, it's not because we're doing anything bad or wrong. It's because that's not it.
Right.
And I always say too, when people are like, I'm working so hard, I'm like, not a right fit.
Right.
We're here to be in joy and happiness and do what we love and get paid for it. I mean, we aren't taught that when we're young, so we can't nurture that, but we have to, once you kind of get it as an adult, you're like, oh, what the hell do I like? I'm going to start giving that freely. And then next thing I know, I'm being paid for it.
I feel that I've never used that word, I'm working so hard. I've never used that expression because whatever I've done or had to do, it's in the flow.
Yep.
Right? As long as I'm in the flow and not fighting it, I trust, I guess surfers learn to do that when they pick a wave and just trust that it's going to take you where you need to go. So when I'm in the flow, I always feel protected. Doesn't mean I don't worry about everything. I have Find My Friends for my daughter, and when she's traveling, I'm like, okay, and I worry, and sometimes I think am I looking for things to worry about, or are these legit?
Well, worrying's a funny thing because it does not one thing positive. It hurts our body. It causes stress, anxiety. It lowers our immune system.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything positive for any situation except put out the bad vibes of what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, worry is a huge energy, depleting, worthless energy.
Yeah.
How can I harness that worry into something beautiful? I'm going to make her a collage book. I'm going to text her every 30 minutes how much I love her. I'm going to, it's like whatever it is to flip it, because worry it's just bullshit. It's a life sucker.
I agree.
Yeah. Trust me, I worry too, but I have to freaking slap my head and go back to my heart. I'll give myself a big thump because I'm like, get out of the crazy.
Yeah.
But I like the crazy because it reminds me of the good. The mess.
Yeah. That imperfect mess.
I'm happy that you're my friend.
Thank you. I feel the same way. Honestly, I'll have to have another sleepover soon.
Oh, it's happening very soon. Like I'm going to send you a few dates after this. So I can come get my jewelry and then leave something else.
There you go. I went on Nextdoor and a guy was giving away an outdoor ping pong table. So I paid my gardener to go get it. And I
love it.
have a ping pong table in my backyard now. And it's so fun.
It is fun. And that backyard's perfect. And you can see the ocean and the sunset. It's so gorgeous. I look forward to it. Yeah. Okay. So what is your website? Because on your website, you can listen to all your different voices, I saw.
Yes, you can. So it's Randy Thomas VO, RandyThomasVO.com. My Instagram's Randy Thomas VO. Someone hacked my Twitter, so I don't have access to my Twitter, which would be the same. And Twitter's not helping me. Like, who else would have Randy Thomas VO?
No.
Right.
No, they don't help you.
So they, people come out of the woodwork apparently to say, hey, I can help you get that Twitter back, almost only $150. And that I get baited by those kind of people,
I did too the other day. And then all of a sudden I was like, there's too much background noise. It was for it's for PayPal. And I called the first number. I typed in PayPal support and I just clicked the first number. And the guy's like talking a little unprofessional and the noise was too noisy in the background. And I go, hey, how do I know you're really with PayPal? And he hung up. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I didn't give him my password.
You got spoofed there.
No, I didn't though. It was close.
Oh.
Okay, so people check Randy out. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. And I'm at Leigh Keckner at Instagram since you shared yours.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you for being glorious. Thank you for allowing me to watch you turn from a caterpillar into a beautiful butterfly. And I look forward to joining back in the group now that I've quieted my mind on Wednesday, and I'll see you there.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see you. And I just want to say thank you for doing this podcast. It helps so many. So I'm happy.
Thank you, sweet lady. All right.
Take care.
Bye.